I destroyed my marriage over 8 inches. Not of land, not of principle, but of something so stupidly primal that I can't even tell my therapist the whole truth. My name is Brooke, and I threw away 16 years of love because I became obsessed with what I thought I was missing. Tom and I had been together since college. He was my first everything. First kiss, first love, first and only lover until I ruined us. In my mind, that used to be romantic. We'd found each other early and never needed anyone else. But somewhere along the way, that beautiful story became a source of insecurity. It started with small things. Comments from friends who'd been around the block. Stories in the break room about wild 20s I'd never had. Dating app screenshots from single friends showing their conquests, their variety, their experiences. I'd smile and nod, but inside a voice whispered, "You've only been with one man. What if you're missing out?" "Don't you wonder?" my coworker Jenna asked during one of our wine lunches. Recently divorced, she had the glow of someone diving into their second adolescence at 39. What it would be like with someone else, someone different. "Not really," I lied, but the seed was already planted. "Girl, I've been with 12 men since my divorce," she continued, wine making her bold. "And let me tell you, they are not all created equal. My ex, turns out he was working with training wheels compared to what's out there." She went on to describe, in detail I didn't ask for, her recent encounters. Sizes, shapes, techniques. A whole world I'd never explored, reduced to locker room comparisons. I laughed along, but something shifted inside me. A curiosity that felt like hunger. Tom was a good husband, better than good. He worked as a physical therapist, coming home with stories about helping people walk again, while I pushed papers at a marketing firm that sold things nobody needed. He cooked dinner most nights, remembered every anniversary, and still grabbed my ass when I walked by him in the kitchen. Our sex life was fine, regular, comfortable. I came most of the time, he was attentive, we had our routine. But that word, routine, started to feel like a prison. The idea came from some stupid article about reigniting your marriage after 40. I was 38, but close enough. The article suggested trying new things, pushing boundaries, being adventurous. "We should go to that nude beach," I said one Saturday morning, trying to sound casual. "Bonnie Doon near Santa Cruz." Tom looked up from his coffee, surprised. "Since when are you interested in that?" "Since we've been doing the same things for 16 years. I snapped, harsher than intended. He set down his mug carefully. "Okay, if that's what you want." That's how we ended up at Bonnie Doon Beach on a sunny September day. Me pretending to be confident as I stripped down. Tom clearly uncomfortable but trying to be supportive. We found a spot away from others, laid out our towels, and I tried to feel liberated instead of exposed. Then I saw him, a man playing volleyball with friends. Probably mid-30s, built like a swimmer, and hung like... I'd never seen anything like it in real life. Only in porn that I'd started watching secretly, wondering what I was missing. He was just walking around like it was nothing, this thing swinging between his legs that made Tom look... inadequate isn't the right word. Different. Smaller. Normal. I tried not to stare. Failed. Tom noticed. "You okay?" he asked, following my gaze. That's a lot of confidence," I said, trying for humor. Tom's face reddened. "I guess some guys have more to be confident about." The self-deprecation in his voice killed me. Tom had never been insecure about his body before. Now I'd made him aware of a comparison I had no right to make. "Size isn't everything," I said, the words sounding hollow even to me. "Right," he said, already gathering our things. "Ready to go?" The drive home was silent. That night, Tom didn't initiate sex for the first time in months. When I reached for him, he turned away. "Tired," he mumbled. But I knew. I'd planted a poison in both our minds, him wondering if he was enough, me wondering what I was missing. A few nights later, when Tom initiated sex, all I could think about was the volleyball player. I closed my eyes and imagined what it would feel like. Someone built like that. Someone who could probably... I came harder than I had in years, and Tom thought it was because of our adventurous day. "Maybe we should try new things more often," he said, kissing my shoulder. "Maybe," I agreed, hating myself for what I was thinking. The obsession grew like a cancer. I started noticing bulges everywhere, at the gym, at work, on the subway. Started wondering what every man was hiding, comparing them to Tom, to the beach volleyball player who'd become my mental benchmark. I bought toys online, bigger ones, hid them in my gym bag. Used them in the shower, chasing something I couldn't name. The worst part was how it poisoned our sex life. Tom, sensing my distance, tried everything. He bought books, suggested positions, even asked directly what I wanted. But how could I tell him I wanted him to be someone else? Someone built differently? The cruelty of that truth was unbearable. "Am I not satisfying you anymore?" he asked one night after I'd clearly faked it. "Of course you are," I lied, hating myself. "Brooke, we've been together 16 years. I know when you're really there and when you're... not." He was sitting on the edge of our bed, shoulders slumped, looking older than his 39 years. This man who'd spent almost 2 decades learning my body, my responses, my needs, now doubting everything because of my wandering mind. "It's not you," I said. Another lie wrapped in a truth. "Then what is it? Talk to me, please." But I couldn't admit that I'd become obsessed with a fantasy, that I was throwing away real intimacy for imagined experiences. So I said nothing, and the silence grew between us like a living thing. Then Marcus joined our company. Marcus Williams, transferred from the Miami office, had a reputation that preceded him. The women in accounting called him the legend, and giggled like teenagers whenever he walked by. He was the kind of man who wore his reputation like cologne, heavy and impossible to ignore. The first time I saw him, he was leaning against the conference room door, arms crossed, watching our monthly meeting with predatory patience. 6'4", former college basketball player, built like sin and knowing it. When he smiled at me, I felt like prey. "You must be Brooke," he said after the meeting, intercepting me at the elevator. "I've heard great things." "All true," I said, trying for professional. "I bet they are." His eyes did a slow scan from my heels to my face. "We should grab coffee, compare notes on the Thompson campaign." I knew what coffee meant. Knew it from the way he stood too close, from how his hand lingered on my lower back as the elevator doors opened, from the knowing looks the other women gave me as we walked to the break room together. Jenna filled me in during lunch the next day. "Lisa from HR said it's like a Pringles can," she whispered, gleeful as a gossip columnist. "And Claire from legal, she said she couldn't walk right for 2 days. Apparently he's got this move where..." "That's gross," I cut her off, but my pulse quickened. "Oh, please, don't act all pure. I saw how he was looking at you, and how you were looking back." "I'm married." "So was Claire." She leaned in closer. "Look, I'm not saying do anything, but if I had a hall pass, and Marcus Williams was interested, I'd at least think about it." I was already thinking about it. Thinking about it during budget meetings when he'd catch my eye and smirk. Thinking about it when he'd accidentally brush against me at the copier. Thinking about it when Tom would fall asleep after another night of me being mentally absent during sex. He started flirting with me immediately. Nothing aggressive, just comments about my presentations, my dress, my smile. He'd stand too close at the coffee machine, let his hand brush mine when passing documents. I should have shut it down. Should have mentioned my husband. Instead, I found myself wearing tighter skirts, higher heels, pushing my wedding ring around my finger like it was burning me. "Drinks tonight?" he asked one Thursday. "Team building. Jessica and Mark are coming too." Jessica and Mark left after 1 drink. Marcus and I stayed for 4. "So," he said, leaning back in the booth, legs spread wide. "Jenna tells me you've been married forever. Since college?" 16 years, I said, the number feeling like a life sentence. "Must be nice, having that stability." His hand found my knee under the table. Though I bet you wonder sometimes, what else is out there? I don't, I lied. No? His hand moved higher. Not even a little curious? I was drowning in curiosity, drowning in want for something I'd built up in my mind as the answer to restlessness I couldn't explain. This thing that Tom couldn't give me, that I'd convinced myself I needed. I should go, I said, not moving. Should you? He leaned in close. When's the last time someone made you feel like the sexiest woman alive? Because that's what you are, Brooke. Fucking incredible. Tom told me I was beautiful all the time. But from Marcus, with his reputation, with what I knew he was hiding in those tailored pants, it hit different. Like validation from someone who had options. Like I was special enough to catch the attention of a man who could have anyone. One more drink, I said. Then I really have to go. One drink became two. Two became his hand under my skirt in the Uber. The Uber became his apartment, all exposed brick and bachelor furniture. And then I was finding out if the rumors were true. They were. For exactly 17 minutes, I felt like I was living in a porn video. The stretching, the fullness, the novelty of it all. Marcus knew what he had and how to use it, positioning me to feel every inch, whispering filthy things about how I'd never go back to my average husband after this. But then came mine at 18, when the novelty wore off and reality crashed in. The smell of his cologne, too strong, nothing like Tom's subtle soap scent. The way he kept checking himself out in the mirror above his bed. The mechanical nature of it all, like he was performing a routine he'd done 100 times before. You good? He grunted, not really asking. Yeah, I lied, wanting it to be over. When he finished, he immediately rolled away, grabbed his phone, started scrolling. No cuddling, no conversation, no connection, just transaction completed. There's towels in the bathroom, he said without looking up. I've got an early meeting, so... The dismissal was clear. I was already yesterday's news, and he hadn't even gotten tomorrow's yet. That was fun, Marcus said, already checking his phone. We should do this again sometime. Fun. 16 years of marriage, and he called it fun. I dressed in silence, ordered my own Uber, and made it home by midnight. Tom was asleep, trusting, peaceful. I showered until the water ran cold, scrubbing like I could wash away what I'd done. But the evidence was deeper than skin. The soreness between my legs, the beard burn on my neck, the hollow ache where my conscience used to be. Tom woke when I slipped into bed. Hey, he murmured, pulling me close. Fun night? Just drinks with coworkers, I said, another lie adding to the pile. He kissed my temple. Love you. Love you too, I whispered, meaning it and hating myself for it. The next morning, I woke to Tom making breakfast, humming off key like he always did. He'd made my eggs exactly how I liked them, over easy, salt, no pepper. Cut my toast into triangles because he knew I preferred it that way. These tiny acts of love I'd taken for granted for 16 years. I was thinking, he said, pouring my coffee. Maybe we should plan a real vacation, somewhere tropical, just us. I burst into tears. Hey, he said, rushing to hold me. What's wrong? Talk to me. But I couldn't. Couldn't tell him that I'd destroyed us for 17 minutes of novelty. Couldn't explain that I'd been so obsessed with what I thought I was missing that I'd thrown away what I had. Couldn't admit that Marcus had already texted asking for round 2, and I'd already deleted his number because the reality was nothing like the fantasy. Just stressed, I managed. Work stuff. He held me tighter. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. We always do. We, us, together. Words that used to make me feel trapped now felt like a lifeline I'd already cut. I tried to pretend nothing had changed. Went to work, avoided Marcus, came home to Tom. But guilt is a living thing. It ate at me during dinner, whispered during sex, screamed when Tom would do something thoughtful like buy my favorite wine or DVR my show. Marcus, meanwhile, had moved on to Stephanie from finance. Then Amber from reception. Then that intern whose name I never learned. The office legend collecting women like trophies, each one thinking they were special until they realized they were just Tuesday's entertainment. "You look like hell," Jenna said one day at lunch. "Everything okay?" "Define okay," I said, pushing salad around my plate. "Did something happen with you and Marcus? He said you guys hung out, but then you've been avoiding him like the plague." "Nothing happened," I lied. "Just realized he's not my type." "Smart girl. That man is a walking red flag. Did you hear about him and the intern? Poor thing thought they were dating." She laughed. "Can you imagine thinking Marcus Williams would settle down?" I could imagine. I had imagined. For 17 minutes, I'd imagined a lot of things. Tom started noticing my distance. Not angry, just concerned. He'd find me staring at nothing, lost in my own guilt. He'd ask if I was okay, and I'd make up excuses. Work stress, hormones, exhaustion. He bought me spa certificates, took over more housework, suggested couples yoga. Every kindness was a knife. The breaking point came 3 weeks after my night with Marcus. Tom had planned a surprise, recreated our first date down to the restaurant, the movie, even wore the same cologne he'd worn in college. He was trying so hard to fix something he didn't understand was broken. Over dessert, he took my hand. "Brooke, I know something's wrong. You've been different since the beach thing. Did I do something? Did something happen that day that upset you?" The beach. Where this all started. Where I'd seen something that made me question everything good in my life. "Tom," I started, then stopped. How could I explain that I'd thrown a grenade into our marriage because of penis envy? That I'd been so shallow, so stupidly fixated on size that I'd cheated with a man who saw me as just another notch on his bedpost? "Whatever it is," he said, squeezing my hand, "we can work through it. That's what we do, right? Team Tom and Brooke?" Team Tom and Brooke. We'd been saying that for 16 years, through job losses, family deaths, fertility struggles that ended with accepting we'd be a family of 2. We'd survived everything together. Everything except my own stupid obsession. "I slept with someone else," I said, the words falling out like stones as I stared at the half-eaten dessert between us. Tom's hand went slack in mine. The restaurant noise faded to white static. I watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and finally devastating comprehension. "Who?" he asked quietly. "Someone from work. It happened once, 3 weeks ago." "The night you went for drinks?" Not a question. He'd known something was off. Of course he had. After 16 years, we could read each other like books. I'd just been hoping he'd skip this chapter. "Yes." "Why?" The word broke on the way out. How could I tell him that I'd been consumed by size, that I'd wanted to know what it felt like to be with someone bigger, that I'd reduced our entire relationship to inches and found it wanting? The truth was more humiliating than the lie. "I don't know," I said. "I was drunk. It was stupid. It meant nothing." "Nothing." He pulled his hand away. 16 years, and you threw it away for nothing. "Tom, please, it was a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. Can we try to work through this?" He looked at me like I was a stranger. "I need to leave." He stood, pulled out his wallet, left cash on the table, always thoughtful, even in destruction. "Tom, wait. I'll be at my brother's," he said without turning around. "We'll talk, just not tonight." I sat in that restaurant for another hour, watching other couples laugh and share desserts, wondering if any of them were harboring secrets that would detonate their lives. The waiter finally asked if I needed anything else. "Just the check," I said, realizing Tom had already paid. Of course he had, but we never really talked. Tom came by when I was at work, packed his things with surgical precision. I came home to spaces where his presence used to be. The empty spot where his guitar stood, the bare hangers in the closet, the silence where his off-key shower singing should have been. He left his wedding ring on the kitchen counter, a perfect gold circle next to a note. "I would have given you anything. All you had to do was ask." The cruelty of those words was in their truth. If I'd told Tom I was curious, if I'd admitted my insecurities, if I'd been honest about my needs, he would have worked with me. We could have explored together, communicated, grown. Instead, I'd chosen betrayal over vulnerability, a stranger's body over my husband's heart. I tried calling him, texting, even showed up at his brother's once. But Tom was done. Not angry, just finished. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And Tom had reached that place where I simply ceased to matter. The divorce was swift and uncontested. Tom didn't want drama, just distance. He gave me the house I couldn't afford, took only what was his, divided our savings fairly. His lawyer mentioned Tom had started seeing someone, a nurse from his clinic who'd apparently had a crush on him for years. "She's lovely," our mutual friend Diana told me 6 months later, cornering me at the grocery store. "Really good for him. They're talking about kids." Kids. The word came out flat. Diana's face softened. "I'm sorry, I know you guys tried as— It's fine," I cut her off. It wasn't fine. Tom and I had tried for 3 years before accepting it wasn't happening. We'd grieved together, grown closer through the loss of that dream. Now he was getting a second chance at everything, with someone else. "She actually asked about you," Diana continued, oblivious to my pain. "Wanted to make sure it was okay to try, given your history. Can you believe that? She wanted your blessing." "What did Tom say?" "That you weren't part of his life anymore, so your opinion didn't matter." Diana winced. "Sorry, that sounded harsh." It was harsh, and earned. I'd removed myself from his life the moment I let Marcus Williams inside me. Marcus left the company a year later, transferred to New York after an incident with the CEO's daughter. The legend lived on, but now it came with warnings. I heard he'd given more than one woman an STI, that he'd been sued for harassment, that his gift came with a price higher than anyone should pay. "Remember when you had that crush on him?" Jenna asked at happy hour, 3 margaritas in. "Thank God you never acted on it. Claire's still in therapy." I nodded, the secret burning in my throat like acid. The worst part was I couldn't even claim it meant something. I'd destroyed my marriage for a man who probably couldn't pick me out of a lineup. I'm 41 now, dating apps on my phone, meeting men who ghost after 3 dates or want only what Marcus wanted. Fun. They see a divorced woman over 40 and think desperate, easy, damaged. They're not wrong. Sometimes I run into Tom around town. He's always polite, distant, correct. His new wife is pregnant, glowing in that way happy women do. She looks at him like he's her personal miracle, and he looks back the same way. The way he used to look at me before I decided what we had wasn't enough. Last week, I found our old photo albums while packing to downsize. There we were, young, in love, convinced we'd won the lottery by finding each other so early. In every picture, Tom's looking at me like I'm his whole world, and I'm looking at the camera, already distracted by something outside the frame. The last photo was from our anniversary dinner 2 months before the beach. Tom had surprised me with a weekend in Napa, just the 2 of us. In the picture, we're holding wine glasses, sunset behind us, his arm around me. I'm smiling, but my eyes look vacant. How long had I been gone before I actually left? I kept one photo, our wedding day. Tom's face as I walked down the aisle, tears streaming, joy so pure it hurt to witness. That man loved me with everything he had. And I threw it away because I'd convinced myself everything wasn't enough. They say size doesn't matter, and they're right. What matters is the size of your commitment, your love, your appreciation for what you have. The size of your heart when someone chooses you every day for 16 years. The size of the hole they leave when you realize too late that they were more than enough. They were everything. I destroyed my marriage over 8 inches that belonged to a man who probably couldn't remember my name. Now I measure my life in what I lost. 16 years, one good man, and the kind of love that doesn't care about measurements because it's too busy being immeasurable. Size doesn't matter. But the size of my regret? That's something I carry every day, in a space that used to hold Tom's love. And unlike what I thought I wanted, it's far too big to bear.